Around Lake Chaser, a huge crowd has gathered due to an ongoing crisis. A flower seed washed in from the ocean and transformed into a monstrous, nine-tailed fox residing in the lake's center. This flower abomination, while normally benign, is spreading saltwater, killing nearby fish, and harming workers attempting to enter the water. Immediate action is necessary. Master Ratatouille suggested seeking help from a nomad, known for their skill in handling such situations. However, the nomad was unavailable and sent his wife instead, a girl named Belle. Rumors surround Belle, claiming she was exiled from the city for causing trouble, and the most peculiar part is her lack of animal features, a rarity in a world where everyone possesses some animal trait. Her smooth, human-like skin makes her stand out as a strange sight, leading the townspeople to view her with sussy eyes and impure thoughts. Despite their judgment, Belle is here to help. Introducing herself as Belle Lablac, she explains that she is on a mission from her lover, Master Ken Locke, to delete the floweriness monster. The elder rat expresses gratitude for her arrival and directs her to the dirty tentacle thrashing in the lake's center. Previous attempts to combat the creature had failed due to its tough body and dangerous bits. Belle assumes it might be a Negroni but needs to confirm it herself. When asked if she is willing to slay the monster, Belle confirms, driven by her strange fondness for devouring big, juicy tentacles. Belle readies for battle, dropping her heavy sword on the dock and stripping down to maneuver and slide cancel better. As she charges across the water, a slimy tentacle grabs her, pulling her towards the lake's depths. She breaks free, assessing the monster, and confirms it is indeed a Negroni, though larger than any she had encountered. With her sword at the ready, Belle parries the monster's attack but is thrown into nearby buildings, prompting her to go full berserk mode. She slices through the sticky tentacles, countering its attacks and gradually closing in for a decisive strike. However, when she wounds the creature, it releases a torrent of salt water, causing panic among the villagers trying to save their emeralds. Amidst the chaos, the naughty monster grabs Belle again, but weakened. It cannot hold her. She questions the creature, discovering its desire to return to the sea but being unable to do so, now only able to spread its seeds. Despite her empathy, Belle knows she must prevent it from creating more chaos. She breaks free and finishes the creature off. Returning to the dock, the elder rat thanks her, promising to send her a reward later. Belle requests a seed and tentacle from the monster, revealing her peculiar taste for dark meat. The townspeople, though bewildered, allow it. Belle honors the monster's last wish by tossing a seed back into the water before heading home. At home, she finds her master, Ken Locke, struggling to start a fire. She reports her success, and though Ken congratulates her, his focus remains on the fire. Belle, puzzled by this mundane task, reflects on why he sent her instead of handling it himself. Despite her destructive methods, Ken's role is strictly as an instructor, unable to use his powers beyond teaching. During dinner, Belle discusses the flowery monster's motivation to leave the sea. Ken theorizes it was driven by procreation instincts, common to all creatures, despite Belle's doubts. She voices her frustration about their isolated life and her desire to find a place where she belongs. Ken suggests she undertake the trials to become an official nomad, a path that requires her to confront various challenges and inherit a curse. Determined, Belle decides to undergo the trials. Ken explains that curses are a necessary part of a nomad's journey, inherited through blood and unique to the bearer. Belle cuts her hand, stating her desire to find her origins and a place of acceptance. As the ceremony begins, she starts losing memories of Ken, a side effect of the curse. Ken reassures her that she needs only to remember his teachings. Despite the pain of losing her memories, Belle accepts her new path. Her sword, glowing with juice, reminds her of her past struggles and triumphs. She prepares to face the trials, determined to find her place in the world, guided by the lessons and strength she gained from her master, even if she can no longer remember her daddy. Episode 2 begins with Belle in a cave, examining a rock that resembles a stone egg. She wonders where she's originally from, speculating if her homeland might be in the sky. She longs to belong to a place where she can feel at home. Meanwhile, somewhere unknown, a sinister figure declares that he has found her. The next morning, Belle wakes up in a quartz forest, sipping some strange broth for breakfast. Suddenly, a peculiar and somewhat perverted rabbit appears, startling her. Despite her initial fright, she finds the creature, known as a rabitia, cute. She offers it her drink, but the rabbit chooses to eat her cup instead. Belle then travels back to the castle, where she is met with disdain from the peasants for being a non-furry human. She enters a restaurant to order some chicken and Kool-Aid, but changes her mind and opts for flower tea instead. The man serving her, named Haggis, imparts some wisdom on good and evil. Belle feels mocked and introduces herself as Belle Lablac. Haggis, who introduces himself with a name that sounds like Hagen-Dazs, asks her how well she knows the place, leading to a discussion about politics. Belle declares her intention to become a nomad. Haggis then mentions a conspiracy about the king not being the real king and suggests she reconsider her decision. Suddenly, Belle has flashbacks of Ken Locke and recalls something called Deus Ex Machina, though she can't quite grasp its meaning. Meanwhile, some unsavory characters enter the restaurant and throw in the rabitia, claiming they caught it and plan to kill it due to their racist beliefs. Without hesitation, Belle intervenes, stopping them by throwing her cup and defeating them. She tells them they don't deserve to wield swords. After the fight, she realizes she's cursed with the inability to cut things, rendering her sword permanently blunt, regardless of its sharpness. Hags intervenes, asking for her dog tag and warning her she's in trouble for using her sword without it. Belle is then taken to a prison cell on the back of a giant turtle, the local equivalent of a police car. Fortunately, she's allowed to keep her sword, which she hugs like Mr. Bean hugs his teddy bear. In her cell, she experiences severe PTSD and flashbacks of stealing the sword. She finds sudden motivation to escape and, once free, tells a guard to fetch a soloist named Gaff. Back at the restaurant, a ninja named Adonis meets Haggis and inquires about the altercation. As they talk, cries of "It's the army of insatiable emptiness" ring out, and zombie hordes begin invading the capital. Simultaneously, Belle visits Gaff Shandy, the soloist she had asked for. Gaff gives her a dog tag, and Belle reiterates her plan to become a nomad. She discusses her curse with Gaff, who confirms it. Belle sarcastically thanks him and insists she doesn't want to be a burden, even though she feels like one. Just as she's about to leave, she spots the rabitia again. Gaff tells her it's a sign of good luck to have a rabbit traveling with her. They leave Gaff's house, and he promises to arrange a meeting with the king. As they reminisce, trumpets play in the background, and the setting sun paints the sky. Belle returns home, gets ready for a bath, and pulls the rabbit in with her, despite its apparent lack of consent. She tries to converse with the rabbit, but it doesn't respond. The next day, on their way to meet the king, Gaff tells Belle she's the second person to have the name Luck engraved on a dog tag. The only other person was her master. As they approach the door to the king, Gaff briefs her on the castle's three main components. He then shows her the cancerous sword living inside of God's tree. Moments later, the king emerges from the tree like a jack-in-the-box and gives a poetic speech. Oddly, he has a face on his stomach that starts talking to Belle, calling her a rude little brat. Belle notices that while the king eyeballs her, the tree does not, which offends her. Gaff informs the king that Belle has finished her exams and is ready to be a nomad. Belle explains why she deserves this title and expresses her desire not to be alone forever. The king grants her wish, but says she must first face a challenge from one of the four greatest champions, a soloist known none other than Kir Royale. Episode 3 begins in Dram's basement, where Ken unexpectedly appears. Dram, surprised to see him, mentions hearing that Belle has finally left the nest. Ken confirms this, revealing that Belle severed his arm entirely, and he barely survived. He shows her his broken sword, asking her to repair it, noting she is the only one capable of doing so. Dram then inquires about Gaff, to which Ken responds that Gaff is no longer a child, and is set to become the next prince of the revolution. Curious, Dram asks about creating sacred ash, and Ken informs her that he has someone investigating the matter. He speaks of Belle, expressing confidence that she will achieve everything they desire. Dram mentions needing someone who doubts logic. When Ken asks if she has someone in mind, she points to the Void Army, suggesting that the people of the land will be tested, including Deus Ex Machina. Dram assures Ken that she will return his sword once it's repaired. The scene shifts to the sword arena, where Kir, one of the four great duelists, stands ready for battle. Belle reflects on their previous fight and feels nervous, unsure if she can break his sword again. Keir informs her that he has forged a new sword from the remnants of the one she shattered, claiming it is stronger now. Ignoring him, Belle charges and attacks. Keir easily blocks her strikes, and Belle grows anxious as she struggles to land a hit. Still believing victory is within reach, she charges at Keir, landing a blow. However, Keir quickly recovers and retaliates. Belle blocks his attack and throws his sword aside, leading to Keir's defeat. She then cuts his sword, shocking the spectators. When they express their disbelief, she challenges them, stating that if they are dissatisfied with the outcome, they should fight her themselves. Approaching the leader, Keir and Belle receive congratulations, with the leader welcoming Belle as a soloist. He insists they need her help for various tasks, especially in combat. Later, Belle retires to her room to rest, accompanied by medics who treat her wounds. Gav applies sacred ash to her burns, amazed by its effectiveness. He expresses pride in her performance against Keir. Belle contemplates how duelists treat their swords as extensions of themselves, stating, "If I can't cut people, I'll break their swords instead." The scene then shifts to the king speaking with a masked man named Cian. He questions whether Cian will sacrifice Belle to bind his curse. Once a priest who has fled their kingdom, Cian is released to live as one of the dead with no pursuit. Next, a rabbit transforms into a person after nibbling on a sword, commenting on the peculiar taste. At a nearby restaurant, some crooks discuss an elixir that can bring swords back to life while also testing the evil within. They vow to teach the rabbit a lesson. The rabbit overhears their plan, then steals a necklace and makes his escape. Back with Belle, Gav informs her that evil duelists are soon set to attack the lower eastern region, targeting a location near her parents' home. Belle grows angry, asking, "Why didn't you tell me?" Gav replies that it's against the law, noting that the king is aware of the raid, but only the chosen duelists will engage in combat. Belle insists that the king should intervene. Gav warns her that she will have to pay the equivalent of her sword's weight in gold coins. Determined, Belle rushes to save her parents, but upon arrival, she only finds her father, who informs her the outlaws took the townspeople. Resolving to rescue them, she charges at the outlaws, confident in their limited resources. An old man among the outlaws boasts that he will eliminate her with a spell, but Belle counters it with her sword, leaving him stunned. She swiftly defeats his army, forcing him to flee. After freeing the captured townspeople, her mother joyfully embraces her and her father expresses heartfelt gratitude. Suddenly, a little girl runs up, calling "Mom," and thanks Belle for her bravery. When Belle learns the girl is also named Belle, she is moved to tears. Her father invites her to stay, but she replies that she has important matters to attend to. As Belle wanders through the city, she realizes her necklace is missing. Feeling sad, she resolves to find it later. Meanwhile, the old monster comments on Belle's wild nature, and one soldier admits to stealing her necklace. At that moment, the rabbit reappears, expressing a desire to ask a favor and pointing to the missing necklace. He finds Belle and introduces himself as Kitty, revealing that he knows her. He expresses gratitude on behalf of his brother. He then leads her to a gathering place for wanderers, where Belle feels an unexpected sense of belonging. Kitty explains that he requested a song from a traveling singer, surprising Belle. When the singer begins to perform, Belle is flooded with childhood memories, moving her to tears. After the song ends, Kitty remarks, "May the curse of our future become a blessing over time." The singer greets Belle, who thanks her warmly. Kitty explains that the singer can only communicate through song, hinting at her curse as a wanderer. He then asks Belle if she has found what she was searching for, suggesting that her parents might have heard that same song, prompting Belle to realize they named her after it. As memories of her parents wash over her, tears stream down her face. Suddenly, she notices that Kitty has vanished, leaving her necklace on the table. Overjoyed, she clutches it close, feeling as though she has finally found what she has been searching for. Episode 4 opens at the king's court, where Belle stands poised to receive a reward for her valor in battle. Her impressive display of strength has driven off numerous duelists. The king praises her and offers her a boon, a guarantee that her sword will never bend or break. After placing the sword on the scale and receiving the king's acknowledgement, she leaves the court. The scene transitions to Belle strolling through through the city with Gaff. He inquires about her parents, and she responds that although she has seen them, she doubts they will meet again. Despite this, she feels a sense of relief knowing they are safe. He then brings up the 4 top duelists, mentioning that he is one of them. He adds that another duelist, Tisano, is missing and might be hiding due to her ability to change her appearance and aura. When Belle asks about the 4th duelist, he introduces Adonis, a special case. The following day, Belle hears noises that sound like cute ratatouille rats. Upon investigation, she finds a group of adorable pups and is delighted by their thickness. She brings them a plate of fruits to eat. Later, Belle and Gaff encounter soldiers, attacking a boy named Adonis, who is being accused of sword theft. Adonis remains passive, neither answering nor fighting back. Gaff intervenes and disperses the soldiers. Adonis thanks him and then leans against a wall for support. Belle inquires about the cause of the trouble. Her teacher's friend explains that Adonis took a sword from a recently deceased duelist, ignoring the relative's demands for its return. Adonis is known for taking swords from fallen warriors and buying those abandoned by others. Belle returns home, sipping tea and pondering why Adonis doesn't wield a sword of his own. She recalls the gloves he wears, which make it seem as though he avoids touching swords directly. The next morning, she arrives at a large building and discovers a crowd yelling at Adonis. She intervenes, questioning the ballsiness of ganging up on one person. Belle then sees the puppies she had been playing with, killed by the soldiers who were testing their swords' sharpness. Enraged, Belle's body glows with fury as she draws her sword, striking down the soldiers. Adonis watches in awe. Belle helps him up and finds one of the puppies alive in a tree, apologizing for not saving them. She asks Adonis for his address so she can help him home. After taking Adonis home and helping him to bed, Belle notices strange flowers called crow's flowers, which grow from corpses. Adonis then introduces Bambo, a peculiar creature that is constantly consuming itself and thus never in one place. As Belle observes, a strange phenomenon transports her to a different place. A door appears, and Adonis emerges, apologizing for his condition. He applies magical bandages to his arm and invites her to sit as a table with food and chairs appears. Adonis mentions that Bambo seems to like her. Belle inquires about Adonis's practice of taking swords. He shows her numerous swords and explains that he can alter any sword to suit him, marking them with a question mark. He reveals his sorrow for the fallen warriors and his desire to rid the world of monsters and bandits. Belle realizes Adonis's situation mirrors her own struggles, and she notices that his inability to wield a sword directly is tied to deep-seated issues. Meanwhile, Bambo transmits information from the king's chamber. The king discloses that Tisano's alignment has shifted entirely to evil. Adonis reacts angrily upon hearing this, explaining that Tisano, once a top duelist, turned to evil, enticing people and setting herself up as a prize to incite battles among her admirers. After Gav broke her sword in a duel, Tisano disappeared, embracing evil and rallying the downtrodden against the lords. This contrasts with Adonis's story, showcasing a failed test of goodness. The scene shifts to the king calling for Belle and Adonis. As they prepare for battle, Gav meets them and reveals his plan to organize combat teams due to the previous team's lack of coordination. The second team will follow Belle, and she need not face Tisano alone. Adonis expresses concern about the reckless nature of the battle. Belle, confused, learns that the battlefield is the catacombs, sacred to the evil ones. The opening team must secure their path while facing fierce resistance from the downtrodden. Meanwhile, as Rabbit Boy reflects on Belle and waits patiently for fate to bring her back to him, LeBlanc appears and begins to communicate with him. They discuss the complexity and danger of the situation, emphasizing the need to control logic to prevent destruction. The Rabbit Boy asserts his role in observing and judging logic and reveals that a girl crucial to LeBlanc's plans is part of the current events. Back in the turtle limo, Belle is introduced to her new squad members. One of them even tries to play with her sword and flops hard. As they reach the catacombs, they realize that this quest will likely be their last. It seems to them that the king has sent them to their demise. As Bill and Adonis guided their squad through the pitch-black cavern, Gwyn, the writer and political analyst, scrutinized every move. Mr. Rat, the reserve squad leader, gave the command to open fire. The others would take center stage soon as water began to bubble up from beneath them, forming 3 layers of barriers. The army advanced through the murky darkness when something bizarre happened. Ferocious spiders suddenly erupted from the shadows, swarming the soldiers who screamed in utter terror. Bill, brandishing her mighty sword, fought valiantly against the creepy crawlies, but their numbers were overwhelming. In this moment of chaos, Tisana, the water maiden, joined the fray. The squad leader, realizing the dire situation, ordered a retreat, but Tisana, with a frosty precision, targeted him and took him out instantly. She then made a swift exit, leaving everyone in a state of shock, especially Bill. As Bill pressed forward, she ran into Bennett, who was so panicked that she inadvertently attacked Bill in her distress. Bill easily defended herself, but noticed Bennett's profound sadness. Bennett's friend had died in the battle, but miraculously he reappeared before her. Relieved, she expressed how worried she had been, but her relief was short-lived as she realized his intentions were far from friendly. Bill intervened, only to discover he had turned into a mummy. Bennett, overwhelmed with rage and sorrow, launched a barrage of arrows, finishing him off. Bill reached out, urging Bennett to regain control, but the monster resurrected with a vengeance. At the last second, Kitty appeared and incinerated the creature to ashes with a single blast. When asked why he was there, Kitty explained he had sensed danger and came to the rescue. Bennett, still on edge, hugged Bill tightly and sobbed. The remaining survivors gathered around. Bennett, with her sharp ears, heard a peculiar noise. They moved cautiously to investigate and discovered a magical door. Stealthily, they entered, with Bill racing ahead. Inside, they found Aeonis next to Perry, who had succumbed to his injuries. Bill claimed Perry's sword for her own collection. The leader of the Outcast squad proposed an alliance. He insisted they must unite against their real foe, Tritano. Adonis, brimming with determination, agreed, declaring that Tritano was the actual threat and they must join forces to defeat her. The scene then shifts to Tritano by the lake, calmly signaling the monsters to depart. Suddenly, Tritano spotted Adonis and, in a fit of rage, commanded the dead to attack him. The group tried to flee, but their escape route was blocked by monsters. Undeterred, Adonis used a powerful sword to incinerate the creatures. The squad leader swiftly led them to safety. Kitty sealed the door behind them with his special ability, setting it ablaze to prevent further breaches. Jin Bak, the leader of the Outcasts, then addressed them. Bill had a flashback to her first trial upon seeing him. Jin Bak revealed that he had ordered Tritano to orchestrate the event, but had never commanded her to attack them. He explained that the Water Maiden had initially proposed an alliance, but had lost her sanity when she saw Adonis. Jin Bak warned them that none of this mattered now. If they didn't act quickly, they would all become her puppets. He proposed a temporary alliance, but Bennett was wary, questioning whether they could trust him. An outcast pointed out that they had had the chance to kill them in the caves, but had chosen not to. Although still suspicious, Bennett reluctantly agreed. After reaching an agreement, the group began assigning roles. Jin Bak suggested he lead the team, and Bill, recognizing his wisdom, agreed. Adonis's father appeared, asking about Adonis's hands. Adonis replied that they had not healed. Bill, curious, asked if they knew each other, and Adonis's father revealed that Adonis was his son. The leader then instructed them to practice. Bill, feeling an unfamiliar thrill as monsters emerged before them, the leader commanded them to fight without fail. Bill unsheathed her sharp sword, ready for the challenge. Tisano then commands you like the video, or she'll become your step-mummy. And don't forget to comment, who's the baddest of them all? Besides Tisano, of course.